Every day, every hour, the calls come in, and when they do, ambulances go out, providing critical care to those who need it most.
But as Fox 4 problem solver Jason Friedman shows you, getting there can be dangerous, putting already sick patients even more at risk and threatening the lives of everyone on the road.
When the call comes in,
paramedics, what's the address of the emergency?
And every second counts.
Those are seconds that could mean a difference between life and death.
It's the job of first responders to make it to the scene as quickly and safely as possible. When that call involves a medical emergency in Kansas City, Missouri, it comes to Mast.
All right, ma'am, I do have an ambulance on the way.
Day and night, dozens of ambulances are on the street. Mast EMTs and paramedics waiting for the call.
105, code 2.
But also worrying about one thing.
The streets out here are very unsafe.
It's bad every day.
Behind the wheel, battling traffic, crews say they see it all.
I've never stood on the brakes so hard in my life.
Hear it all.
Sometimes you come to the intersection, they got the music so loud they can't even hear you.
And in some cases, feel it too.
I didn't know what had happened. I'm breathing for this kid, and all of a sudden I feel 2 hits.
Many times making the most difficult part of the job just getting there.
It put my patient's life at risk, it put my life at risk, and it put my partner's life at risk.
To see that risk, we're riding along, positioning cameras throughout the ambulance to give you an up-close look at life behind the wheel when lives are at stake.
God bless it, are you people gonna stop today?
Some drivers do the right thing. Seeing the lights, hearing the sirens, they move to the right and stay out of the way. But on most calls, we see something else. Drivers moving into our lane, passing us by, and most dangerous of all, zooming through intersections as we try to cross.
You never know what's coming to the right or to the left.
Less than a minute after that white truck passes through, we're at another intersection when one car crosses from the left, then another from the right.
That's really common.
But 2 unaware drivers at one intersection is nothing. On our way to a severe bleeding call, our ambulance has to come to a dead stop. After this school bus makes it through, so does a red SUV, a gray sedan, then from the right, a third car, and finally a fourth. And on this seizure call, it's even worse. Not 4,
Another one.
but 5 cars passing through while the crew and the patient can only wait. And there's even more waiting less than 2 minutes later, when 4 more cars pass us by while lights and sirens are running. It happens over and over during our ride-alongs with Mast. And about 10 to 12 times a year, the situation is even more serious. Not close calls, but crashes. And no matter who's to blame, when an ambulance gets smashed up, you pay up. Repairs can run anywhere from a couple $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. And since Mast gets 40% of its funding from local government, taxpayers are footing part of the bill. So what's keeping drivers from seeing the lights, hearing the sirens, and letting first responders get to the scene and provide critical care?
When we turn in lights and sirens, I think people's minds just kind of blank out. They don't know what to do.
Some of it might have to do with what those minds are focusing on in the first place. There are cell phones, CD players, even DVD players. Not to mention the fact that cars are definitely...
But as the driver of this convertible shows us, there could be more to the equation than soundproof cars. Later in the newscast, we step out from behind the wheel.
Which way would you go?
Oh, without a doubt.
To see and hear what could be the most surprising answer of all. Why ambulances have to stop, drivers keep going, and patients keep waiting. We won't have to go far for that answer. It can be found right on the ambulance itself. Remember, whenever you get behind the wheel, be aware of your surroundings. Then, if you see lights and hear sirens, pull off to your right. If you can't get over, make sure not to slam on your brakes. Hard to believe, but first responders say it's something they have to deal with all the time. Later in this newscast, why part of the problem may be on the ambulances. Jason Friedman, Fox 4 Problem Solver.
Tonight you saw what happens when ambulances are in a hurry, but drivers are in anything but a hurry to get out of their way.
Now, Fox 4 problem solver Jason Friedman investigates the ambulances to see if they're part of the problem.
Lights, sirens,
21-10-63.
and a whole lot of action.
God bless it, are you people gonna stop today?
As first responders battle it out behind the wheel, getting to the call can be the most dangerous part of the job.
Look at that, right there.
Whether they see the ambulance or not, many drivers buzz by, leaving emergency crews waiting to cross and patients in Kansas City waiting for care.
Those couple of seconds might save somebody's life that they don't know.
It's like a football player. When he gets that hole, hit that hole and hit it hard because that hole is going to close up immediately.
But this is no game. Come in contact with a 7-ton ambulance, and it's pretty clear who's coming out on top.
They're not going to win against one of these things.
So why do so many drivers keep driving? What's forcing ambulances to stop and wait when seconds count?
Maybe they have their radio on, or maybe they're talking on the phone.
But some say the answer lies a lot closer. In fact, it's on the ambulance itself.
It's up to standard, but I don't think the standard's high enough. I've never been filmed doing housework before.
With 28 years behind the wheel, Larry Jones is Mast's most experienced EMT. When Jones started on the job, ambulances were outfitted with a different kind of siren, a mechanical model called the Federal Q. Much different, he says, from the electronic sirens used today.
Those things will wake the dead. If I had my druthers, if I could outfit an ambulance for myself, I'd put a Federal Q on it and ditch those electronic sirens in a minute.
The electronic sirens used by Mast and most other ambulance services do meet federal guidelines for loudness, but when this happens over and over, and cars are more soundproof than ever, is meeting the standard enough to meet the safety needs of everyone on the road?
The dogs don't even yell anymore.
Drivers like Tony Young, who've had their own close calls, don't think so.
It was doing its thing, the sirens were on, but I didn't hear it. I usually see them coming, but I never hear them.
This part right here.
And the Midwest Ear Institute's Lisa Buckler has her own concerns.
You don't hear them until they're very close.
Not just with how loud today's sirens are, but with the quality of the sound that's produced.
A better range of pitches that may be better able to be picked up by people.
To find out for sure, there's a loudness test, a way to measure the sound you'd hear from an older model ambulance up against what you'd hear on the road today.
Finding those old ambulances in working order isn't so easy, but it's a different story when it comes to the sirens. Mechanical sirens can be found on about 5 to 10% of all ambulances and on even more fire trucks.
It has a very up and down pitch. It's louder.
In Olathe, fire trucks use both mechanical and electronic sirens, but here at the fire station, we're using our decibel reader only to test the mechanical siren, which we'll later compare up against Mast electronic models. With the siren switched on, our windows rolled up, and the fire truck passing us by at 30 miles an hour, our sound reader measures a maximum level of 80 decibels.
We typically don't have that many problems with people moving out of our way.
As you've seen, that isn't the case with Mast, so let's see if the electronic sirens they depend on could be a reason why. Under the same conditions which we tested the fire truck, we're measuring sound as this ambulance goes by. But this time, we don't see the same results. The electronic siren only registers 75 decibels, 5 less than the mechanical siren on the fire truck. That difference could make a real difference on the road. Just like the Richter scale that's used to measure the strength of earthquakes, decibels follow a progressive scale. So that jump from 75 to 80 decibels actually means the fire truck's mechanical siren is almost twice as strong as the ambulance's electronic one. But even though today's electronic ambulance sirens meet federal standards, why not stick with Larry Jones' top choice, the stronger mechanical siren he relied on in the 70s and 80s? Mast says there's a good reason, actually a lot of good reasons. Ambulances today are not as big as they used to be, and since mechanical sirens are bigger and draw more power than electronic versions, they're better suited for bigger vehicles. Then why not upgrade to bigger ambulances? Larger models can cost tens of thousands of dollars more than the ambulances Mast and most other services put on the road. And the bigger the ambulance, the tougher the time navigating crowded city streets, a factor that could have its own negative impact on Mast response time.
120, your nature center code 1.
This little boy's been hit by a car.
So with the loudness of sirens staying the same and the need for emergency care as constant and urgent as ever, it's up to everyone behind the wheel to pay close attention and drive safe.
62 to Baptist, forward 1.
Because when seconds count, lives are at stake. Not just the life of the patient waiting at the scene, but the lives of everyone on the road. Technology could also help make things a lot safer. Some departments use sensors that change streetlight signals as ambulances approach. And just like we've seen with computers, stereos, and cell phones, there's hope mechanical sirens will get smaller and smaller to the point where they can fit onto today's smaller ambulances. Jason Friedman, Fox 4 Problem Solver.